The rescue. Captain Zix Morvak's four compound eyes swept across the debris field floating through the asteroid belt. His chitinous fingers drummed against the command console of the mining vessel Stone Harvester as he processed what his sensors were telling him. The wreckage was fresh, maybe 6 standard hours old, and it definitely wasn't from any Kentheri ship. Commander Thex, what do you make of this? Zix clicked his mandibles together, a sign of deep thought among his insectoid species. Commander Thex skittered across the bridge on his 6 legs, his antenna twitching as he studied the readouts. Unknown vessel type, Captain. The hull composition contains metals we don't commonly use. Energy signatures suggest it was some kind of research ship. Zix's primary eyes focused on a small object tumbling slowly through the wreckage. There, magnify Sector 7 Alpha. The main screen zoomed in on what appeared to be an escape pod, its hull scorched but intact. Life signs. Faint but present, Captain. Single occupant. Thex paused, his antenna drooping slightly. But sir, we're already behind schedule on our mining quotas. The company won't appreciate delays for rescue operations, especially for unknown species. The Kentheri had always been practical to a fault. Their society valued efficiency and productivity above almost everything else. Rescuing strangers wasn't just uncommon among their people, it was often seen as foolish waste of resources. But something about the small pod drifting helplessly through space stirred something deep in Zix's thorax. "Bring it aboard," he ordered. "Captain, with respect, we don't know what species we're dealing with. They could be hostile, diseased, or worse. Our medical bay isn't equipped for alien biology." Thex's voice carried the concern of a friend as well as a subordinate. Zix stood to his full 7-foot height, his carapace gleaming under the bridge lights. "In all my cycles of commanding mining operations, I've never left a being to die in the void. I won't start now. Activate the cargo bay tractor beam." The rescue operation took 47 minutes. As the pod was brought aboard, Zix could see through the transparent aluminum viewing port that the occupant was unlike any species he'd encountered. Bipedal, with soft pink skin and strange fur only on the top of its head. The being was small, maybe half his height, and appeared to be unconscious. Dr. Keth, their ship's medic, emerged from the pod with his sensor equipment chirping frantically. "Captain, this is remarkable. The creature appears to be from a species I've never studied. 2 eyes, bilateral symmetry, carbon-based. The life support readings suggest they breathe a nitrogen-oxygen mixture similar to what we maintain in the lower decks. Will they survive?" Zix asked. "Unknown, but their vital signs are stabilizing. I've never seen such resilience in a being this small. They should have died from the radiation exposure alone, but somehow they're fighting through it." 2 days passed before the alien awakened. Zix was in the cargo bay reviewing mineral extraction reports when he heard a weak cough from the medical area they'd set up. He approached cautiously, not wanting to frighten the creature. The alien's eyes opened, revealing an unusual brown color. They blinked several times before focusing on Zix. To his surprise, instead of screaming or showing fear, the being attempted to sit up and spoke in a surprisingly melodic voice. "Thank you," the alien said in what Zix's translator rendered as galactic standard. "I wasn't sure anyone would find me out here." "You speak standard." Zix was impressed. Few species outside the main trade routes bothered learning the common tongue. "I'm an engineer. Lyra Chen. I was part of a research expedition studying dark matter fluctuations in this system." The alien, Lyra, winced as she moved. "We were attacked by raiders. Pirates, I think. They destroyed our ship and killed my colleagues. I barely made it to the escape pod." Zix felt his antenna twitch with sympathy. "I am Captain Zix Morvak of the Kentheri mining vessel Stone Harvester. You're safe now." Lyra's expression suddenly changed to one of urgent concern. "Captain, you need to get out of this system immediately. The pirates who attacked us, they're not just random raiders. They were organized, military-grade equipment, And they mentioned something about coming back to search for survivors. How long do we have? Zix asked, his tactical mind already working. Based on their conversation, maybe 18 hours. They wanted to make sure they got everything valuable from our research. Lyra struggled to her feet, showing the same resilience Dr. Kath had noted. Captain, I need to contact my people. If I can get a message to Earth, they might be able to help. Earth. Zix had heard of the human homeworld, though he'd never encountered the species directly. The Kenthuri preferred the quieter sectors of space, away from the more aggressive civilizations. I'm human, Lyra explained, as if reading his thoughts. We have protocols for situations like this. If you can boost your communications array, I might be able to reach our nearest defense station. Commander Thex approached from behind, having overheard the conversation. Captain, we should leave immediately. Our mining equipment isn't designed for combat, and we have a crew of 43 to think about. Zix looked between his old friend and the small human who had somehow survived what should have been certain death. Every practical instinct told him Thex was right, but something else, something he couldn't quite name, made him hesitate. How long to boost the communications array? He asked. Maybe 3 hours. Thex replied reluctantly. Do it. Zix made his decision. We help her contact her people, then we leave. The next few hours passed in tense activity. The engineering crew worked frantically to modify their communications equipment, while the sensor operators kept watch for any approaching ships. Lyra proved surprisingly helpful, her knowledge of human technology complementing the Kenthuri systems in unexpected ways. Your species has an interesting approach to engineering, she commented as she worked alongside Zix in the communications bay. Very methodical, but also creative. Most species I've worked with are one or the other. The Kenthuri have always valued both precision and innovation, Zix replied, finding himself oddly pleased by her compliment. It served us well in our mining operations. What made you decide to rescue me? Lyra asked quietly. From what I've observed, your crew wasn't entirely comfortable with the decision. Zix paused in his work, considering the question. I'm not sure I can explain it in words your translator would render correctly. There's a concept in our language, thexpa, which roughly means the obligation to preserve life when the cost is bearable. But it's more than that. It's the idea that every conscious being has value, regardless of species or circumstances. That's beautiful, Lyra said softly. Humans have something similar. We call it compassion. The communications array came online, just as their sensors detected multiple ships approaching from the outer system. The signatures were aggressive, bristling with weapons, and moving in attack formation. Captain, Thex called from the bridge, his voice tight with worry. I count 15 vessels, all armed. They'll be in firing range in 47 minutes. Lyra's hands flew over the communications console, broadcasting on frequencies Zix had never seen before. Emergency transmission to Earth Defense Command. This is Engineer Lyra Chen, Expedition Code Alpha 77 Delta. I am aboard the Kenthuri vessel Stone Harvester in the Kepler 442 system. We are under immediate threat from pirate forces. The Kenthuri crew rescued me and are now in danger because of their compassion. Please respond immediately. She turned to Zix, her expression grave. I've sent the message, but it'll take time to reach Earth even through the relay network. Captain, you need to run. Your ship isn't equipped for this kind of fight. Zix studied the tactical display showing the approaching pirate fleet. She was right. The Stone Harvester had only basic defensive systems, designed to ward off small asteroid impacts and minor threats. Against 15 warships, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. All hands, prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace, he ordered over the ship's communication system. Captain, his navigation officer called out, our hyperdrive is still cycling from the jump into this system. We need another 23 minutes before we can make the transition. The pirate fleet would reach them in 20 minutes. Sir, Thex approached quietly. There is another option. We could. We could give them what they want. The human. It might be enough to make them leave us alone. Zix turned to look at his second-in-command, someone he'd served with for over a decade. The suggestion hung in the air between them like a toxic gas. Around the bridge, other crew members had gone silent, waiting for his response. "Commander Thex," Zix said finally, his voice carrying a chill that made his crew's antenna droop, "I want you to think very carefully about what you just suggested. We are Kenthuri. We may be miners, not warriors, but we have honor. Would you have me trade a being's life for our convenience?" "No, Captain. I apologize." Thex looked genuinely ashamed. The fear spoke through me. Lyra stepped forward. "Captain, Commander Thex is right about one thing. I won't let your crew die for my sake. If surrendering me saves your people." "Nobody surrenders anybody," Zix interrupted firmly. "We defend this ship and everyone on it. Thex, reroute all available power to shields and defensive systems. If we're going to make our stand, we'll make it a memorable one." The pirate fleet dropped out of hyperspace 18 minutes later, their ships forming a threatening semicircle around the stone harvester. The lead vessel, a massive dreadnought covered in weapon emplacements, moved closer until it filled their main view screen. A grotesque face appeared on their communications display. The being was reptilian, with scales covering scared flesh and eyes that glowed with cruel intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "Kenthuri vessel, I am Pirate Lord Scaveth of the Bloodclaw Syndicate. You have something that belongs to us. Surrender the human survivor, and we might let you leave with your shells intact." Zix stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full height despite the fear coursing through his system. "This is Captain Zix Morvac. The being you speak of is under our protection. We will not surrender anyone to pirates." Skiveth's laughter was like breaking glass. "Protection. You're miners, not soldiers. Your little ship has maybe 2 defensive turrets against my 15 warships. I'll ask once more nicely. Give us the human, or we'll take what's left of her from your wreckage." "Then you'll have to take our wreckage," Zix replied calmly, "because we're not giving you anything." The communication channel closed, and immediately the pirate ships began moving into attack positions. On the bridge of the stone harvester, 43 Kenthuri prepared to make what they all knew would be their final stand. Lyra stood beside Zix at the command console, her small hand resting on his chidness arm. "Captain, I want you to know that what you're doing, it means everything. My people will remember this. If any of us survive to tell the story," Zix replied grimly as the first pirate ship powered up its weapons. The space around them erupted in brilliant flashes as the attack began, and Captain Zix Morvac wondered if his decision to show compassion to a stranger would be the last choice he ever made. Earth's response. The first salvo of pirate weapons fire lit up the stone harvester's shields like a deadly fireworks display. Captain Zix felt the deck plates vibrate under his feet as the ship's defensive systems struggled against the overwhelming assault. His tactical display showed their shield strength dropping rapidly under the concentrated bombardment of 15 warships. "Shield generators at 60% and falling," reported his engineering officer, her antenna drooping with stress. "Captain, at this rate, we have maybe 4 minutes before complete failure." Zix watched as another wave of energy beams struck their ship. The Kenthuri defensive turrets returned fire gamely, but their mining lasers were like throwing pebbles at an armored predator. One lucky shot managed to damage a pirate fighter's engine, sending it spinning away from the battle, but it was a tiny victory against impossible odds. "Captain," Lyra Chen said quietly from beside him, "I'm reading massive energy buildup on the lead dreadnought. I think they're preparing to end this quickly." Through the view screen, Zix could see the pirate flagship's main cannon rotating toward them, its barrel glowing with accumulated power. He'd heard stories of such weapons, planet crackers capable of splitting asteroids in half. Against a mining vessel, it would be complete annihilation. "All crew to emergency stations," he ordered over the ship's communication system. "Brace for His words were cut off as every sensor on the bridge suddenly screamed with alarm. Space around them erupted not with weapon fire, but with the brilliant blue-white flashes of ships dropping out of hyperspace. Dozens of them, appearing in perfect formation as if they'd practiced this maneuver 1,000 times. What in the void? Commander Thex stared at the tactical display in amazement. Captain, I'm reading 47 new contacts, all broadcasting identification codes I'd never seen before. Lyra rushed to the communications console, her eyes wide with disbelief as she read the incoming data. Those are Earth Defense Force signatures. But that's impossible. Even with the relay network, my message couldn't have reached Earth and gotten a response this fast. The lead ship in the new fleet was massive, easily twice the size of the pirate dreadnought, and it was moving directly toward the stone harvester with purposeful grace. As it approached, its communication array activated, broadcasting on all frequencies with crisp authority. This is Admiral Sarah Knox of the Earth Defense Force, commanding the heavy cruiser Indomitable. All hostile vessels will power down weapons immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that fails to comply will be destroyed without further warning. Pirate Lord Skeveth's scared face reappeared on the Kentheri communications display, but now his expression had changed from cruel confidence to shocked confusion. What? Where did these ships come from? We had scouts monitoring all hyperspace routes. The human admiral's voice cut across all channels with the authority of absolute command. This system is now under Earth Defense Force protection. You have 30 seconds to comply with shutdown orders. You humans think you can intimidate the Bloodclaw Syndicate. Skeveth's voice cracked slightly as he spoke. We have 15 warships here. We have 47, Admiral Knox replied calmly. And unlike yours, ours are designed for actual military combat rather than terrorizing civilians. 20 seconds. Zix watched in fascination as the human fleet deployed with mechanical precision. The larger vessels formed a protective screen around the stone harvester, while smaller, faster ships moved to flank the pirate formation. Every movement spoke of discipline, training, and overwhelming technological superiority. 10 seconds, the Admiral announced. One of the pirate vessels, apparently deciding that discretion was the better part of survival, suddenly broke formation and jumped back into hyperspace. Then another followed. Within moments, 8 of the 15 pirate ships had abandoned their commander and fled the system. Skeveth's voice was now tinged with desperation. You can't do this. We have salvage rights. The human was aboard a derelict vessel. The human is Engineer Lyra Chen, a citizen of Earth under the protection of the Turan Republic. Admiral Knox's response was ice cold. By attacking those who rescued her, you have committed an act of war against humanity. Time's up. What followed could barely be called a battle. The remaining pirate ships, already demoralized by their comrades' desertion, found themselves facing military technology decades ahead of their own. The human warships moved like predators, their weapons finding targets with surgical precision. The pirate vessels' shields collapsed under concentrated fire. Their engines were disabled with pinpoint accuracy, and within 3 minutes, the entire Bloodclaw force was either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. Skeveth's dreadnought, the last ship still partially operational, found itself surrounded by 6 human destroyers with weapons locked on target. The pirate lord's final transmission was a whimpered surrender. Kentheri vessel Stone Harvester, Admiral Knox's voice returned to its earlier professional tone. This is Admiral Knox. Permission to come aboard. 30 minutes later, Zix found himself face to face with the human military commander in his ship's modest conference room. Admiral Sarah Knox was smaller than he'd expected, roughly the same size as Lyra, but she carried herself with an authority that filled the entire space. Her uniform was crisp, her bearing perfect, and her eyes held the kind of confidence that came from commanding vast fleets across interstellar distances. Captain Morvac, she began, I want to personally thank you for what you've done here today. By rescuing Engineer Chen, you've performed an act that humanity considers sacred. I don't understand, Admiral, Zix replied, his translator working to convey his confusion. "We simply couldn't leave a being to die in space. It was basic decency." Admiral Knox smiled, and Zix was surprised by how the expression transformed her stern features. "Captain, there are many species in this galaxy who would have calculated the risks and left her to die. Others who would have rescued her but demanded payment, and some who would have rescued her only to sell her to the highest bidder." She paused, looking around the modest conference room with its purely functional furniture and mining equipment displays. "But you risked your ship, your crew, and your lives to protect someone who wasn't even of your species. That kind of character is rare in the galaxy." Lyra Chen entered the room, now wearing a clean Earth Defense Force uniform that Admiral Knox had brought for her. She looked remarkably recovered considering her ordeal, and Zix realized again how resilient humans seemed to be. "Admiral," Lyra said, "I've told Captain Morvac about human protection protocols, but I don't think he fully understands what's happening here." Admiral Knox nodded and turned back to Zix. "Captain, let me explain something about humanity. We have a code that goes back to our earliest days as a spacefaring species. It's simple. If you save one of ours, you save all of ours. Touch one of ours, and you face all of ours." "The Kenthari aren't in any danger, Admiral," Zix said carefully. "The pirates have been dealt with." "Oh, this goes far beyond today's pirates," Knox replied with a smile that held steel beneath its warmth. "Captain, as of this moment, the Kenthari people are under the permanent protection of Earth. Your mining operations, your trade routes, your colonies, all of it. Any threat to your people will be considered a threat to humanity." Zix felt his antenna twitch with shock. "Admiral, that's incredibly generous, but we haven't asked for such protection. We're a peaceful species. We try to avoid galactic conflicts, which is exactly why you deserve protection," Knox said firmly. "Captain, in the next few days, you're going to see some changes. Earth is establishing a permanent patrol base in this system. We're upgrading your defensive capabilities, and we're making it very clear to every pirate, raider, and criminal organization in this sector that the Kenthari are off-limits." Commander Thex, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "Admiral, with respect, why would humanity do all this for us? We're miners, not strategic allies. We have no military value." Admiral Knox stood and walked to the small viewport, looking out at the human fleet now deployed throughout the system. "Commander, you're thinking about this wrong. You're not valuable because of what you can do for us. You're valuable because of who you are." She turned back to face the Kenthari officers. "3 days ago, my engineer was floating in space, probably dying, certainly doomed if someone didn't help her. Captain Morvac, you could have taken one look at the tactical situation and decided it was too risky. You could have calculated the resources it would cost and decided it wasn't worth it. You could have rescued her and then handed her over to pirates to save your own crew." Her voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "Instead, you risked everything to protect someone you'd never met, someone who couldn't possibly repay you, someone whose entire species was unknown to you. That kind of moral character is exactly what humanity values most in the galaxy." Lyra stepped forward. "Captain, I've been monitoring the communications traffic. Word of what happened here is already spreading through Earth's diplomatic channels. The Kenthari are about to become one of humanity's most protected species." Over the following weeks, Zix watched in amazement as the Admiral's promises became reality. A Earth Defense Force patrol base was established on the largest asteroid in the belt, its presence deterring any criminal activity within 3 systems. The Kenthari mining operations, previously marginal and dangerous, became the most profitable in the sector as merchants flocked to trade under Earth's protection. But the most remarkable change was in how other species treated the Kenthari. Word had spread through the galactic community about the small mining ship that had defied pirates to protect a human. The Kenthari, previously viewed as insignificant miners, were now spoken of with respect and admiration. 6 months later, As Zix reviewed the stone harvester's most profitable quarter in company history, he received a priority message from Earth. The transmission showed not Admiral Knox, but a human in civilian clothes sitting in what appeared to be a comfortable office. Captain Morvac, this is Director James Harrison of the Earth Colonial Development Authority. I'm contacting you with a proposal that I think will interest you. The human leaned forward, his expression serious but friendly. Captain, Earth is planning to establish new colonies in the Outer Rim sectors. We need experienced, trustworthy partners to help with resource extraction and infrastructure development. The pay would be substantial. More importantly, you'd be helping to build something that could benefit both our species for generations. Zix looked around the bridge of his ship, at the crew who had stood with him during the most dangerous moment of their lives, at Commander Thex, who had apologized a dozen times for his moment of fear, at Dr. Keth, who had worked tirelessly to save an alien he'd never seen before. Mr. Harrison, Zix replied, I think we'd be honored to help. As the communication ended, Zix reflected on the strange path that had brought them here. 6 months ago, they'd been simple miners, unknown, and largely ignored by the galaxy at large. One act of compassion, one decision to value life over convenience, had changed everything. Lyra Chen, now serving as a liaison between Earth and the Kenthuri, often visited the stone harvester during her diplomatic missions. She'd become something of a legend herself among the Kenthuri, the human who had brought their species into the galactic community as equals rather than subjects. Captain, she said during one of her visits, do you ever regret your decision to rescue me? Your life has become much more complicated. Zix considered the question as he watched human and Kenthuri engineers working together to upgrade his ship's systems. His species was now part of something larger, a growing alliance of worlds that valued cooperation over conquest, compassion over calculation. Engineer Chen, he replied finally, my people have a saying, Thex Vamorden, which roughly translates to kindness creates strength. I used to think it meant that being kind made you stronger. Now I understand it means that kindness creates strength in others as well. He gestured toward the mixed crew working on the bridge. By rescuing you, we didn't just save one life. We created a bond between species that has made both of us stronger. That's not something to regret. That's something to celebrate. Outside the viewport, human patrol ships moved in formation with Kenthuri mining vessels, their combined presence a symbol of what was possible when beings chose compassion over fear, cooperation over conflict. And in the depths of space, other species watched and learned that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could reshape the galaxy itself. The rescue of one human had indeed brought Earth to war, but it was a war against cruelty, against the idea that might made right, against the notion that different meant enemy. It was a war worth fighting, and one that both species had already won simply by choosing to fight it together.